In today's episode, I want to give you an unbiased, honest review of the Logitech Trophy Simulation Chair. This right here is a premium quality and feeling racing simulation chair. And there are a lot of things that I love about this chair, but unfortunately it has one fault, so stay tuned till the end of the video where I talk about that one fault. If you watch my last video, I talked about trying on several different types of simulation chairs, mainly from Playseats. I tried out the Playseats Challenge as well as the Evolution, and out of all of them, I would probably say that the Playseat Trophy has the most comfortable chair. This material here that you're looking at is called ActiveFit. And the other material that this is made out of is called PU leather. It's really not leather. It's kind of like a synthetic feeling type of leather. But regardless, it feels really good and it feels very, very high quality. I wouldn't expect this to be leather at this price point anyway. And quite honestly, it doesn't need to be. As far as the frame is concerned, this frame is carbon steel. It's extremely light and very easy to move around. Like me, if you have your simulation chair inside of your living room, it's got to look good, right? Well, the purpose of the simulation chair is not only for it to be fully functional as a simulation chair cockpit, but I think this type of simulation chair cockpit was also designed to really look good inside of your living space. So I keep this primarily in my living room, and it really doesn't look bad, to be honest with you, versus other rigs where it kind of looks industrial and it looks like it belongs in some kind of store where you got them all lined up and people are paying to use your simulation rig. Those type of simulation rigs are really, really good simulation rigs, but they're not really designed to be aesthetically pleasing to put inside of your home environment. I think those dedicated style of simulation rigs are good for like a separate room where you make a game room and you keep it there. But something like this, you can definitely keep in your living room and it kind of blends in with the aesthetics of your overall surroundings. So in that aspect, this is really, really nice to look at inside of your living room, and it doesn't look like it's out of place. With that being said, the color scheme of this thing is a neutral gray color along with blue accents. It's really nice to look at once again, and I love it for that fact. And of course, let's not forget, it only weighs 35 pounds. So the carbon steel is really, really rigid. Now, as you can see here, I have my Logitech G Pro wheel on this, and when I'm playing Gran Turismo 7, I have this thing cranked up all the way to 11 Newton meters. I don't notice any flex here, and this thing is absolutely rock solid. But if you want it to be really, really picky, yes, there is a tiny little bit of flex, as you can see, but it's not something that's overwhelming or noticeable when you're actually behind the wheel. So in that aspect, yes, it does have a tiny little bit, but not a whole lot that you could notice when you're driving. The next thing I want to talk about is adjustability, depending on your height as well as your weight. I weigh about 135 to 140 pounds, and I'm somewhere around 5'5". So I'm not exactly tall, and I don't weigh a whole lot. But as you can see, I fit perfectly well in the seat, and it hugs my body, and it makes me feel like I'm inside of a race car. So that being said, if you're a bigger and taller rider, then there's several points of adjustability for you to work with. For example, on both sides, you have adjustability. You can extend for additional leg room going forward, and of course the pedal plate can also be adjusted. It took me probably about a good 2 weeks to finalize the position that I wanted this to be in. So when you put in a good amount of hours into this, I would say anywhere between 7 to 10 hours, you're going to quickly figure out what works best for you. So make sure to have your tools and your wrenches nearby, because you're going to make a lot of changes to the system until you dial it in just right for yourself. It took me about 2 weeks, like I mentioned, and it's probably going to take you about the same amount of time as well. One of the good things is that the pedal plate can be reversed. So right now I have my pedal plate reversed. So this way the wheel is a little bit more forward. So of course that's going to take a lot of trial and error. You're going to have to figure out which way is best for you and either keep the wheel plate on the default side or reverse it depending on how you want to keep it. And it also depends if you're running this on the F1 style position or the GT position. I like to be in a straight GT position, and that's how I position myself. Finding your ergonomic position is going to be the most difficult and probably the most important thing that you can figure out when you're using the simulation rig, because if it's not ergonomic and it's not comfortable, you're going to have a lot of pain on your arms, your fingers, your hands, your forearms, and it's just not going to be fun, and you're going to end up hating this thing. And I think now is the time that I talk about some of the negative things about this Playseat Trophy, since we're on the subject of pain. So let me give you a little story about why I decided not to use this Playseat Trophy anymore, and why I decided to change my simulation rig once again. Like I mentioned, I had 2 simulation rigs before this, and this is my 3rd one. So now I'm at my 4th one, and I'll tell you about the 4th one towards the end of this video. But first, let me talk to you a little bit about the things that I don't like about the simulation rig, because this simulation rig is developed first and foremost for taller people. Unfortunately, being only 5'5" tall, this simulation rig doesn't work well for me. Number one, it has a lot of adjustability points, but it's missing one adjustability point, which is a deal breaker for me, and that is with the steering wheel. Now you see, a lot of simulation rigs, the steering column can be brought down or it can be brought up, depending on how high you want your steering wheel to sit. Unfortunately, this is a fixed position, and the only thing that I can do with the Trophy is either change the angle of my steering wheel, which is to bring it down or up, or I can change the pedal plate, either bringing it forward or backward. So this has a couple of negative consequences. I've noticed myself putting anywhere between 1 to 3 hours at a time, and I've noticed a considerable amount of pain, not only on my fingers, but also on my hands, as well as on my wrists. And I've tried to make a lot of different changes. That's why I reversed the steering plate. In other occasions, I moved the angle of the steering wheel either up or down. Unfortunately, I never got it right. Other times, I changed the position of this. I brought it more back, and then other times I brought it more forward. But regardless of what I did, what I noticed was I kept putting a lot of pressure with my hands on the steering wheel, because it's not a very natural steering position. Now, if you take a look at the position of a car steering wheel, it's not like this, it's like this. Unfortunately, for the steering wheel to sit right with my position and my height, the best position I found is this position here, as you can see. But unfortunately, it's not ergonomic for my body. I often find myself pushing into the wheel as opposed to turning it in order to turn the wheel. And that is a direct result of the steering wheel not being in an ergonomic position. So in the future, if Logitech decides to create a version 2.0, I would highly recommend that they create adjustability for the wheel for it to be brought down or up. If you take a look at a lot of the high-end racing simulation chairs, you're going to notice that every single aspect of the simulation chair can be adjusted. The pedal plate, the seat, it can be brought forward, it can be brought backwards, and of course the steering column could be brought down or up vertically, as well as sometimes horizontally. And to be honest with you, that's the most important thing about a simulation chair, is where you have your steering wheel. And if the steering wheel is not in an optimal place and it's not ergonomic, it's just a deal breaker. And unfortunately, that's the reason why I stopped using this. If you log into Amazon and read the description for the Playseat Trophy, they say this racing simulator offers a freely adjustable cockpit with no expenses spared to maximize comfort. If they really wanted to spare absolutely no expenses, then they would make this column here adjustable. Unfortunately, it's not adjustable. And so therefore, in version 2.0, hopefully if they come out with it, I would recommend that they make this adjustable. And if they can do that, then this chair is going to sell like hotcakes, because unfortunately, that is the only negative thing I have to say about it. Besides that, everything else is perfect. Not only does it look sensational, but it can also be adjustable, and it can also be made into an F1 style seat. And with that being said, I think that this simulation chair works really well with someone who's at least 5'10" or above, that has a longer torso. So if my torso was higher and I was sitting up and my eye level was at this point here, and then of course I can raise this up a little bit, so this way it could be at a perfect angle for me. Unfortunately, I have to lower that angle, and that's where it becomes really uncomfortable for me. But anyway, let me go ahead and show you my new simulation rig. And now that you've seen this profile, we can compare it to the other one. As you can see on the Logitech, my steering wheel is positioned in a way where it's pretty straight. As a matter of fact, it's leaning a little bit towards me. This is not very ergonomic, and it's going to have a lot of strain on your wrists, on your fingers, as well as on your hands. what you're going to end up doing, like me, is that you're going to be pushing into the steering wheel as opposed to turning it. And the reason why I switched over to the Next Level Racing FGT model is because of the steering column adjustability. The great news is that you can move it up or you can move it down. So I brought it down to the lowest position, and I think it's just right for me. As you can see, the steering column is positioned at a perfect place for my height. And as you can see, that the steering wheel is positioned at an angle like this where it's natural and something that you would find in an actual car versus being straight on my Logitech trophy wheel. And so using the Next Level Racing, it was a lot more comfortable for me, and a lot of the pain that was associated with using a steering wheel, all of that disappeared after a little while. With that being said, I'm not speaking negatively of the Playseat Trophy. I actually think it's a far better simulation chair than my Next Level Racing. The Next Level Racing is what I was talking about in the beginning. It looks very industrial, it's very heavy, and it's kind of ugly if you ask me. I'm just being honest because I paid for this with my own money. I'm not sponsored by anybody. But if I were to make a significant change in the trophy, it would be the steering column. Make it adjustable. Give me the option of lowering it or increasing the height, because for someone of my stature at 5'5", is just too high. It's meant for someone who's at least 5'10" or above, or has a longer torso. So that's my recommendation. If you buy the Logitech trophy wheel or the Playseat trophy, make sure that you're at least 5'10" or above. Otherwise, I would not recommend it. And in that case, I would recommend that you get the Next Level Racing FGT. And of course, both links are down below if you guys want to check them out. But anyway, fantastic, but it has one single problem. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys on the next one.